Okay, it's 4 o'clock. Let's call our meeting to order. Harry, can you take the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Eberl,
Here.
Mr. Schneider,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Kapla,
Here.
and Mr. Borgman is here. I do not see either of the two aldermen here, but I know that our mayor Tistrick is here, and staff.
Thank you.
Utilities.
Mr. Giles did email that he would not likely be here.
Okay.
Nick, has the meeting been appropriately noticed?
Yes, it has been.
Thank you. Public comment period. At this time, the commission would recognize members of the public wishing to speak. Seeing none. Number 4, commissioner, council, and staff comments. Commissioners, anything before we get going? No council members here. Staff comments tonight.
Just 2 items. One for the commissioners. I sent out an email with the self-eval, something we normally do this time of year. So you should have received that, and looking to have that back by September 1st to Mike, so he can tabulate it and then have it for our September meeting. And that's all I have.
You said you had 2.
I'm sorry, I meant 1.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Number 5, commission KPIs.
Yes, so KPIs is something that we've been working on for some time. Unfortunately, with glue and other activities, it kind of got put on the back burner a little bit, so I wanted to bring it back in front of you. So what was in the packet was a key performance indicator, like a resource or a definition document that we would develop for each KPI to help communicate, what the structure is, who's responsible for it, how often it be reported, maybe some of the targets and where the data information is coming from, and put it together in a draft form. Actually used one of the KPIs, the mod rating for workers' compensation, just to give you an example. And in a general sense, by no means is that final. But kind of looking for, before we get into each one of the KPIs, just getting feedback from the commission on how the format of the document looks, if there are any areas that shouldn't be there or should be added or changed, modified, and so on. So look for your feedback.
Paul?
Based on my past life, this looks really good. The definitions are all there, the key things that you want to know about, an owner is named, the frequency, just right, that's how we did it. So, no, I like the format. I think it looks really good.
I thought the same thing when I looked at it.
I did as well.
Yeah. Okay. Any other feedback on that before you get turned loose?
We're still walking, we're not quite spread.
Okay. Does that give you the direction you wanted?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Number 6, GLU update.
Yeah, just I guess this is the monthly update on the glue activities. Everything is going well with Great Lakes Utilities. The metering software has been installed and running well for the last couple of weeks. The annual meeting for glue has been set up and scheduled for September. Financial related activities as far as invoicing members, paying power supply invoices and other related invoices, and developing and providing income statements, financial documents, balance sheets, all those things have come together, and everything's going well. So,
Great. Questions on GLU update?
Just for knowledge, what's a green E-REC?
So REC are renewable energy credits, which we get for our different types of generation. So for instance, hydro, wind, solar are probably the predominant ones, but you could also have biomass. You could have like the digesters and farming applications. You could have like up in Rothschild, they burn paper products for the boiler system. So all of those create RECs. And then there's a company out there that'll certify them as green E, which then means that they came from a non-carbon emitting resource like solar, wind. And in the marketplace, a green E has more value than a non-green E. So we were able to do an exchange for glue where they were able to reap financial benefit.
Oh, good.
So same number of RECs coming in, going out, and then
Yeah.
they profited on the financial side.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Very good.
I should add that each member in the state has a renewable portfolio standard requirement, RPS, where we have to have so much of our generation on an annual basis comes from renewables. Right now, that standard is roughly 10% for all the utilities. This is what Glue uses some of their resources to meet their requirements. Marshfield, what we do is our wholesale contract, we are allocated resource REC to meet that
Through the
requirement.
contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. For the Glue annual meeting in Marshfield, we want to have a good turnout from commission and everything because it's the first year.
Yeah, it would be great if, I know you shall have other commitments and such, but yeah, if you're able to attend, that would be great. There'll be representatives, usually from all the members. There will also, both from their board, which would be staff like myself, or from their commissions, their councils, and their bodies that they work with. And on the agenda this year, we've asked one of the commissioners from the Public Service Commission to come up and speak if she has a conflict with her, she has a morning meeting and she's hoping she'll be able to make it up for this afternoon engagement, but so she's tentatively scheduled. Otherwise, ACES, the third party that we're working with Glue that does MISO activities and power supply planning, is going to come up and speak on power supply planning, give insight on from a national perspective on trends and where things are at, and also maybe have a more dialed in discussion as well as it relates to Glue for a period of it. So as we're doing at Marshfield power supply planning, this would be a great opportunity to get information from a third party that has industry knowledge and expertise and is in the market. So.
Kind of hope the PSC commissioner can't make it.
Yeah, the alternative sounds pretty interesting.
Would you like to come to that?
What is the date and where is it going to be held?
We'll send you a follow-up email.
Thank you.
I just wrote a note
Perfect.
before you raised your hand. All right, any other questions for Nick on that topic? All right, moving on. Number 7, Public Service Commission water rate case, fire protection.
Yeah, so I provided you a one-page write-up in the packet, or maybe it was 2, to kind of framework behind public fire protection. So essentially, public fire protection is the charge that's on the water bill that deals with hydrants, upsizing our water main, water that's used for testing purposes, for training for firefighters, along with if there's actually a fire. Those are the charges that are placed on the bill to support those causes, if you will. And this started back in the 90s. It was actually something that was on the property tax bill. Then in the mid-2000s, it rolled to the utility bill. Back when it was on the tax bill, it was part of your property taxes, but then those dollars would be remitted back to the utility. Through the process, the state and the Common Council decided that, well, can the utility just do it directly, which we were able to and did. And so that happened in the mid-2000s, and we've been doing that ever since. The makeup of how that charge is assessed to a property owner is the PSC determines what all of our costs are on an annual basis associated with the fire protection, and then they get the assessment values from the city of all the properties. And you take the cost divided by the assessment to come up with a rate per thousand, similar to how the tax base is, and that's how it's applied to each property on the bill. This year, the city is going through a reassessment process. I should back up. Every year during the summer, Patty historically and now Joe will get updates from the city assessor, and then they would go in and make updates to the assessed value in our billing system so the right bill was submitted to each customer. As you can imagine, this creates sometimes a lag, especially on a new property that gets built. It could be 12 months before it actually gets put into the system and populated. And it also is quite cumbersome because our billing system, this is a very unique thing and not something our billing system normally does, but they've been able to make it work. But then you also have properties that are nonprofit or do not get assessed the value. So we have to work with the assessor to get the assessed value so that we can use that. And then to complicate things even further, some properties have, like a rental property, let's say, that has 10 units, could have 1 water meter, and then that bill would go to the property owner, or it could have 10 individual meters for each of the tenants, and then it gets divided up. That property value has to be allocated to each water meter. So it's quite a cumbersome process. I don't know, Patty or Joe, if I missed any, but yeah, it's quite lengthy. But needless to say, fast forward, the city, as I mentioned, is doing a reassessment, and that reassessment has been a number of years since they've done the last one. So you can imagine there's going to be some changes, and if since this is a tariff rate with the PSC, we can't just arbitrarily change the rates, but the assessed values will change as we are given that information from the assessor. So Patty and Joe have both reached out to the Public Service Commission to understand this process, given that there's going to be maybe a more than normal increase in assessed values. How do we manage that? Because we only have a certain revenue requirement for the cost. So we're still trying to work through with the PSC and understanding how best to handle that. We have that coupled with the rate case that we're working on filing later this year. So that's one thing we're trying to do, because obviously we don't want to create any undue hardship to any of the customer base. We don't want to see the rates go out of whack, if you will, for a period of time before they can be adjusted correctly. So that's the first piece of what we're working on. The second piece is that using this method of using assessed value is not something that's it's in the minority as far as all the water utilities across the state that use fire protection charge. A majority of them actually use meter size, and that's something Joe and Patty are going to work on, is doing an analysis to determine if we could set up that type of model and how that would look. Obviously, one of the challenges is that when you go from one model to another, there are going to be some impacts on customers depending on where when you go from a individual, if you will, to more of an averaging size type situation, there could be some impacts there. So I really want to get this in front of you now, just so you're aware of what we're working on, get any feedback or anything that we can help as we progress down the road. And then we'll likely, if the metering option makes sense, to bring that back for you for consideration, for your approval to have us go forward with that, if that's through the full rate filing later this year or if that's part of a separate filing. A lot of information there,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's a good education. And I'm sure the city is probably starting to get feedback on those letters that have gone out, and people worried about what's happening to their taxes. This is just going to be another place, because I've had a couple conversations today, being Monday, for people who got letters that's seen 60, 70, 80% increases in that valuation.
Right.
That's going to create a little fear. So I'm glad you're in front of this.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it's not the mayor's fault. I already heard that.
Well, I'd like to echo the same things. I really appreciate you bringing this up and bringing it forth and letting us know. I guess in the back of my mind, I knew that the fire protection piece on the water bill was based on assessed values, but
If they were reassessing regularly, it probably wouldn't have ever come up, but it's been such a long time. It's been, what, more than 15 years?
Yeah, at least that long.
yeah, my value went up 46%.
Wonder if it's possibly the first time since it's been on the utility bills.
Could be.
Yeah, and obviously with the mayor and what the city's doing with the reassessment, the reassessment, your values may go up, but they will work with the property tax rate to meet the levy
Right.
or what the city's budget is. Here, that rate, that we don't have necessarily the leverage we don't have the local authority to make a change to that. That's done at the state level. So that's why we're working with them now to see how we can work through this process to make sure there isn't an impact to the end customer.
Just one question, if you were to go to the new system where there's a water meter, what about on an unimproved lot? Then there would be no water protection charge?
Correct, and I don't believe there's a charge now. It has to be a structure, if I
Oh, it
remember
has to be,
right.
okay, so,
Yeah.
so on an unimproved lot now, there is no fee as well? Okay.
Correct. And the challenge really, if we go to a meter, let's say, if you have like a 5/8 meter, which is typical for a residential property, you could have a residential property that's valued at 100,000 and one that's 300,000.
Yep.
Right now, they pay proportionate to that with that rate schedule. If you went to a meter, that would be level, it'd be averaged.
Right.
So that's part of the challenge.
No system is ever going to be perfect, but it would sure be a lot less labor than having to update the assessed values on every property every year.
Correct, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, we spend a considerable amount of time updating the properties.
I would imagine. Any other discussion? No action required at this time.
Correct.
Just one question.
Yeah.
So is the PSC basically creating the mill rate for us, and they're just telling us what it is per thousand, or are we calculating that?
They provide that for us,
Okay.
but that's a set value in a tariff that's from 2017. It hasn't changed since 2017 and won't be changed again until we go through a rate filing.
Okay.
It does not go through an annual evaluation or adjustment like taxes would. It's only based at the state level when we do a filing.
So today, you get a small increase every year in that based on the property values going up each year. And what you're talking about with without an escalator built into it, your meter size isn't going to change, and now your rate wouldn't change until you had another rate case.
Right.
So you would have a flat collection during that time.
In general, except for you will have hopefully new properties that get added, and then those new properties would then provide additional revenue or additional dollars as against that. But yeah, in general, it would be more flat.
Interesting.
And Mike?
Yes, John?
In the law of averages, and like for a house in Marshfield, what is the medium cost now for fire protection? Do we have any kind of numbers? Or just, I get it that it will vary.
Based on square footage is what you're thinking?
Well, no, it's based on valuation now. But
Yes.
what is the medium for homes?
Have we got into that level of detail yet?
Per month? Okay. Okay,
That's about what mine is.
so like $8, $96 a year or something like that. All right, just curious.
It must be like $7 per 100,000 roughly, based on what I saw on mine.
Yeah, be
I
about
think
right.
that sounds about right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I averages.
0.06, yeah.
Is it? Okay. I have a bunch of numbers in my head. I don't have that one.
Okay. Moving on then, number 8, Common Council Member Tompkins' request.
Yes, so Councilmember Tompkins requested at a council meeting recently that the commission or anyone who works for MU to provide a report on future electrical needs for the city as far as capacity and future updates. Normally in the past, when a request comes in from a council member and it just asks of me or of staff, it's something I can just address and take care of. In this one, the way she phrased it, she made it so that it was directed to the commission and staff. So at that point, it has to, I feel it's appropriate to bring it to you for your discussion and weighing in on how the request should be handled. If you're just going to delegate that to me, that's fine. Or if you want some report developed for you that you review before it goes to the council, or if you want a report that's developed and then you submit that or provide that to the council, there's a number of ways that this could be handled. I'm not trying to make it difficult, but I guess we do have a process here. And when they say commission, I can't when you
Well,
go
both process and content, because that's very broad.
through. Yes.
Are we looking for education, or are we looking for background to make a decision with? What level of detail is she asking for? I was at that meeting, and I don't know.
Yeah, I was curious, if is it like a one-time thing, she wants to know what's in the pipeline right now down the road, or as it comes up in the future?
Again,
That wasn't clear either.
Yeah.
A crystal ball, I think, is what
Yeah.
asked for.
Yeah, that's definitely a great point. I mean, anytime you do a report or a study on anything, it's good to the day it's finalized, and then the next day the assumptions could be all off.
Harry, did you have a thought? No.
No, it should be clear in the budget process. Every year we review the capital budget and the operational budget. All those projects should be listed there.
Yeah, and I believe we do provide the city administrator with a copy of our approved budgets. Yeah, definitely the capital one, because I think of the challenge we had a few years ago with bonding and alignment of bonding with the city and any bonding we're doing as it relates to the bank qualified limit.
Does anybody else think it would be inappropriate to ask for clarification of what she's asking?
No, I think that's a good first step, because it is so broad, it's really difficult to tell. And does she want us to make projections based on truly what we know or truly what we anticipate? Because two different factors. The capital budget gets into more of the what we know and expect, but then there's that whole other things of what could
Well,
happen.
and we're making the assumption she wants to talk in financial numbers and not in kilowatt hours.
True. We don't know that either,
Because,
but true.
you know, reference to future electrical needs could be load demand,
Yeah,
demand shape.
yeah.
And was
So we
it,
need to find out.
yeah, and I was wondering, was it within the context of looking at the balance sheet and our assets on there?
Yeah.
Like, is that
I wondered that too.
the angle?
It was under the agenda item for future agenda items, so
Okay. Huh.
John?
Myself, coming to these meetings, you kind of get a sense of what's going on for the future and the needs by attendance at the meetings. Now, she wants to maybe clarify it and make it so crystal clear that I don't know how you can quite go that route yet until we know what she really is looking for.
Yeah.
Do we want Nick to do that, or she's my alder person? I would be happy to reach out also.
Either one.
I think either, but if you feel comfortable, Mike, that might be a
I'll
good start.
CC you.
Sure.
Any other ideas on that?
I don't know if it would be an easy report to create for her, is just looking at the depreciating assets. I mean, just replacing those as a bulk of the cost in the future as they depreciate.
Yeah, that's a
to
good
replace
starting
them.
point.
Yeah.
Again, we assume she's thinking cost.
Yeah, that's, I don't fully understand what she's asking.
There's just too many assumptions there. Okay, moving on, number 9, commission governance review.
This evening, I provided one governance document for your consideration, proposing some edits to the policy 1085, looking at just ways of streamlining meetings, making sure that reducing any potential confusion, and then ensuring conformance with the other governance policies that we have. Looking for your feedback on the changes. They were redlined, and I think they were all contained within the second page.
Any feedback on the changes Nick had?
Looks pretty straightforward.
I thought it was too. I'm curious if we don't want to take the opportunity to make a change on the front page, though, on the first page, because we are going to have council members become commissioners.
Oh, yeah.
Item number 4 no longer is going to need council comments. It's just going to be commissioner and staff comments.
That could be part of the commission.
As long as we've got it open, why don't we make that change at the same time?
Yeah, otherwise looks good.
Is there a motion to approve that revised policy, revised to include striking council from number 4?
So,
Second,
Second by Nate. Any other discussion on there?
one more comment.
Yep.
Should glue be added to that if we feel that's going to be something consistent going on forward?
That's another good catch,
yeah, that's true. Since we have that, it's probably,
because I think we do want that to be on there.
yeah.
Can I revise my motion to include that?
Yeah.
We need an addendum to the revision.
Actually, why doesn't somebody else, would anybody else like to make that motion?
So I move that we, that we approve the ordinance with the changes as noted, plus the change in the commissioner, council, and staff comments to strike the word council.
Very good. Motion by Paul,
I'll second it.
second by Harry.
And it's just to clear, it's governance document, not a
Yes.
ordinance. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Correct.
Yeah, policy number 1085.
Yeah, there we go.
We don't make ordinances.
No.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I was going to call it a law, but I knew that was wrong.
Thank you for not going that far. Number 10, job orders.
Yes, there's one job order for consideration this evening. It's job order 18164. The project name is Stat Road Rebuild, South of 10. This is rebuilding Stat Road to single phase from Mill Creek to Marshfield Road, and this will replace three phase. The estimated project cost is $45,025. This was in the capital budget for $72,000. It's, so as you can tell, it's considerably under budget, which is great. Part of that is due to reduce in scope, which included converting from three phase to single phase, and then also there's a transmission crossing that's being eliminated, which is helping us save some dollars as well.
Great.
Good.
Is there a motion to approve the job order?
I'll make the motion to
By
approve the
Harry.
job order.
I'll second it.
Second by John. Any discussion?
On 5891, Nick, a 10-inch valve, move and replace. Do you know the address in that one, or is that part of a previous project here?
Is that the Anton one?
Fifth and Anton. Yep.
Fifth and Anton?
Okay.
Yeah, we had a unique situation. The city was doing some ditching and curbing, culvert replacement, I'm sorry. And unfortunately, as part of that, the culvert is being placed right on top of the valve, which makes us have to move the valve to a new location so that we have access to it to open and close it.
Gotcha.
And I believe there's also an electric job order as well for moving of a pole or two.
Yep, that 18256 was
Yeah.
all the same project, same project.
Yeah, $24,000 worth of infrastructure due to a culvert placement by the city.
Wow.
It couldn't be placed anywhere else? Wow. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bills and payroll?
Bills have been reviewed and certified good for payment.
Is there a motion to approve the bills and payroll?
So moved.
Second.
Paul, second by Nate. Discussion or questions? Okay. No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 12 is previous meeting minutes from July 10th. Is there a motion to approve those as presented?
I so move.
Second.
Nate gets the first, John second. You're on the board. Anything anybody would like to see changed on there? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 13, financial reports.
All right, included this month are the July cash reports and the June financial statements. Questions?
Questions?
No, but I'll make a comment. I noticed that we're up on the electric utility. Net operating income is up 27% for the first 6 months.
June was a really good month for some reason.
Yeah.
And then the water utility is up 29% from budget.
Yeah.
It
It
was
certainly
hot and
caught
dry.
my eye that both electric and water did well in June.
Well, it's hot and dry.
Any particular reason why they did well?
Well, I'd like to say oversight and management,
Excellent.
obviously.
One for
Definitely on the water side, obviously, we've had a very dry summer, and there's been a considerable amount of watering going on with lawns and other things, along with our losses are down as well, which has helped. On the electric side, I think the operating of the power plant is helping a little bit as far as providing some resale back to our customers and helping lower cost. I think overall, with it, the budget side, we're running pretty close to what the budget is. At least at this point, there are some outliers within the budget, within the actual compared to budget, but some of that is due to timing. Some of those expenses that are one time, they're allocated evenly across the 12 months, so we'll see it catch up at the end of the year. had some other notes here. Some of the other budget items, just, we hired a new accountant this year, that wasn't an expense that we had originally. That will eventually, that'll be allocated out to glue, so it won't be any long-term effect there, but in the short term with training and onboarding, there's that. We also had some retirements this year. And then we also did we had one position that when we filled it, the administrative assistant, we changed what accounts it was being charged to. So it's showing slightly uptick in the G&A versus where it was being charged to some of the distribution accounts.
All good stuff.
Yep.
Any other questions on the financial reports?
Just one. I know you probably have said it before, but with glue now, how will that show up on what we see? I know you've mentioned it in the past, but how will that come through to us?
That'll show up in the other income and expense area.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it won't be a direct line item that you see at the level that you guys have. However, it'll get unfortunately buried within those numbers.
Yeah.
So that'll be an expense that gets billed out to them. We billed them they're billed through July now. Through June, excuse me, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Very good. Number 14, approval to go into closed session per Wisconsin State Statute 19.851E, deliberating, negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session for the purpose of discussing 1210 South Oak property and future substation property. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Paul, second by Harry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will adjourn for a couple of minutes.